Hey everybody, how's it going? This is John Breeden. It is March 22nd, 2021. It is Monday, and we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Atlanta was yesterday, where Ryan Blaney, for the fifth time in his career, is a winner in the Nascar Cup Series. He passed Kyle Larson with just under 10 laps to go, after Larson basically led like the entire race. He led just about every lap, 269 of the 325 laps to be exact. But Ryan Blaney, towards the end, he was running Larson down. He got to his inside at one point, and then he ended up passing him, and Larson tried to make a crossover move, and didn't quite work for him, and Ryan Blaney led 25 of 325 laps for his fifth career win. The sixth different winner of 2021, and that is the most different winners to start a season since 2014, where we had 7. So we'll see if that record is tied next week. And I believe the record for the most different winners start a season is 10. 10 different winners in 10 different races back in 2003. So who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens. Overall, I mean, it really wasn't much of a race until the very end. The battle between Blaney and Larson. I mean, it was not. I mean, it was all about Kyle Larson all day long. He dominated. He was up front. I mean, there was really no one challenging him at any point. I mean, Alex Bowman looked very strong. He ended up finishing third. Denny Hamlin led early in the race. Kyle Busch looked very strong. And, I mean, other than that, I mean, Kyle Larson, the whole story of the race was Kyle Larson just being dominant. And Blaney got by him at the very end. I mean, plain and simple, it looked like Larson's car just fell off. And Larson wasn't too happy at Joey Logano, who was the lap car in front of those guys. I'll get to that here later on. But, yeah, I mean, overall, it wasn't much of a race. It was a very long race. I mean, I think Atlanta, in my personal opinion, needs to be shortened down to at least 400 miles. I mean, do something. 500 miles at that place is way too long. And it was very evident yesterday. It was a very long race. So I think 400 miles for Atlanta is the way to go, but that's my take on the whole thing. Go ahead and go through my short recap here. And Denny Hamlin led early on, so they took the green flag, and Denny Hamlin was leading early on. And the story in these opening laps was Kyle Busch. He was on the move pretty early, up some spots pretty quick, and Larson got to second on lap 11. And at the same time there was problems for Tyler Reddick. He ended up getting in the wall a little bit. He ended up having a pretty bad day. Never really recovered from that. Looks like he had maybe a flat right front. And yeah, tough break for Reddick. By lap 18, Chase Elliott, who had to start out in the back after, I guess, failed pre-race inspection, he was up 20 spots by lap 18. And then the competition caution came out. And right around this time, Kyle Busch had moved his way into the top 5. Looked very strong. And off pit road here, Kyle Larson would get out front. And something weird happened here with Kevin Harvick. I don't actually know how this happened, but he came in and he, for whatever reason, had a left rear tire. Perhaps he ran over something. I missed whatever happened. But he had a flat tire and had to come back in and ended up going a lap down, and until the end of the race, he did not recover from that. I mean, he was a lap down pretty much the majority of the race until the very end. So they went back green, and not a lot happened for the rest of this first stage. I mean, they took green flag pit stops, and Kyle Larson cycled back to the lead, and it was all about Kyle Larson in this first stage. He won stage 1, and unfortunately for his former teammate Kurt Busch, Stage 2 would not start out well for him. And so on the restart here, Kyle Busch was on the outside, and behind him was Chase Elliott. They were second and fourth, respectively. Kyle Busch spun the tires, jammed everybody up on the restart, and Denny Hamlin got in the back of Kurt Busch, basically an accordion effect. Busch went virtually just nose in first into the outside wall, virtually head on. It was pretty tough hit. and that was the end of his day. So the caution came out, and I believe, other than Chase Elliott blowing up at lap 220, I believe that was the only caution for an incident in the race, for a crash, which is pretty unusual. But yeah, Kurt Busch, tough break for the guy. He had a very strong car. He had a pretty good interview. I mean, he was talking about how he's like, guys, just chill. It's a 500-mile race, and this is a restart. Like, chill out. And I agree. Chill out, guys. It's just a restart, especially at the beginning of Stage 2. But, I mean, obviously, I think Kurt needs to know that, you know, Kyle spun the tires on the restart, and everybody getting jammed up. I mean, it was just bound to happen. But, yeah, tough break there for Kurt. He was looking pretty good. And so they restarted here, and somehow William Byron got to the lead, I guess from the choose rule, or maybe they came in for stops here. I missed whatever happened here, but didn't really matter because Larson immediately got back to the lead, and they had another round of green flag pit stops in this stage around lap 54, this second stage, and the lead cycled back to Larson, and I mean, it was Kyle Larson all day long. Kyle Larson won Stage 2, and that was that. I mean, he was just simply dominant. Ryan Blaney was second, Alex Bowman was third, Kyle Busch was fourth, William Byron was fifth. You had Matt DiBenedetto running very well. He was sixth. Austin Dillon seventh, Chris Buescher eighth, Denny Hamlin ninth, and Daniel Suarez 10th. Had a very good run as well, but didn't end up getting the finish he probably wanted, which I'll get to that. So, Stage 3, kind of the same thing. Just really not a lot happened in this race. I mean, just simply not a lot going on. I mean, everybody was really spread out. I mean, Larson at some points had an 8-9 second lead. Just not a lot going on. And they restarted, and a couple laps later, Chase Elliott blew his engine lap 220. Now, Chase Elliott had some front end damage, it looked like, on the front. It was really weird. It almost looked like, this is going to sound weird, but it looked like the paint was chipped off the car. Now, of course, I know the cars don't actually have paint, but just the way it looks from a distance, like, that's all it looked like. But there was something obviously wrong with the front end, with whatever happened there. But it was this weird little piece of the hood just kind of sticking up, and they I mean, I know they patched it up and everything, but whatever it was, I guess it just led to him to having a blown engine. So there you go. Chase Elliott was out lap 220. Tough break. I mean, we really didn't see much from him at all in that race. I mean, he was, you know, he was here and there in the top 10 for a while, but I mean, overall didn't show too much muscle in this race. And they came in for pit stops. Ryan Blaney got off first, and he took the lead on the restart and held the lead for a few laps, and then he had some trash on the grill, and I don't know if he was letting Larson go by, but he might have been, because Larson regained the lead, but then Blaney got down behind him and got that trash removed, that magic of, you know, getting behind a car and it changing the air and everything like that, and just blows the trash off the grill. So, here we go. Final green flag pit stops. I was just baffled. So, Daniel Suarez at this point was up to 6th place. Very good run for Daniel Suarez, and I thought, man, this guy's running great. Comes in for the pit stop, and sure enough, pit road speeding penalty for Daniel Suarez. I was just like, I can't believe it. So yes, he went from 6th on the lead lap, got a pit road penalty, ended up 19th, one lap down, ended up finishing 17th, but he was 19th after the stop. I just couldn't even believe it. But you kind of learn to not speed on pit road. Granted, Atlanta is pretty tricky in terms of speeding on pit road, but man, just couldn't believe it. So anyway, the lead cycled back to Larson with 53 laps to go, and from there on out, I mean, there were no cautions. And Blaney was running second, and slowly but surely closed in on Larson. And Joey Logano was up in front of these guys, and I guess was running in the same line that Larson was, which was slowing him up. Here's the thing on this. I heard Larson was pretty mad at Joey, I guess for slowing him up, excuse me. And, I mean, from what I saw, when Blaney passed Larson, I mean, Logano wasn't even close to those guys. Now, granted, the aerodynamics of it, if you're a car that's a few car lengths ahead, I mean, you can put some dirty air on the car behind you. But, I mean, overall, I really didn't see anything bad that Logano did. I mean, granted, once Larson got to Logano, I think it did take him a little bit to get by him. But, I mean, overall, I mean, the reality is Ryan Blaney ran Larson down. And Larson got held up in traffic a couple of times. He got behind the 53 car, and that slowed him up a little bit. And the reality is towards the end, Blaney was just faster. And so he got to him, passed him with I think it was 9 to go. And Larson tried a crossover move. They nearly wrecked on the straightaway. I don't know how they didn't. And Blaney pulled away, and that was it. Ryan Blaney pulled away from Larson, won the race. And afterwards, he gave the checkered flag to a fan wearing a Ryan Blaney shirt, a little kid. Very, very cool. And there you have it. Overall, not much for a race at all until the very end. It was fun watching Ryan Blaney run down Larson. And normally when you see those, you see the second place car running down the first place car, and they'll get there, and then with 3 to go, they'll be right there. No, they get in the wall. Or, they slide up and get loose or whatever and lose all their momentum. But it didn't happen here. I mean, Blaney ran him down, passed him, and won the race. And I think I saw somebody on maybe Twitter say something like, it reminded them of when Brad Keselowski dominated at Texas a couple of years back, 2015, where he led almost every lap. And then Jimmy Johnson passed him for the win. Which was very, very similar to this, because Larson led 269 of 325 laps and did not come away with the win. So, I mean, obviously, if you're Larson, though, you can look at the positive of that. You completely dominated this race, and you had a very fast race car until the very end. So, and of course, we're going to Bristol Dirt next week, which I mean, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he wins. I'd actually be surprised if he doesn't win next weekend. So there you go. So that's Cup race. Ryan Blaney, the winner. He's now in the playoffs, supposedly. We shall see what happens. I mean, I remember they were talking on the pre-race show if there's going to be more than 16 different winners in the regular season. And we talk about this every year. And as many different winners as we've had so far, I don't expect that to happen. I think we'll have probably the normal amount. We'll have 13, maybe 14 different winners. And some guys like Truex and Larson, and maybe even Blaney, will rack up some 2, 3, 4 wins. And that'll be that. And that will prevent that from happening, certainly. So, that's my prediction. But, yeah, that is the Cup race. It's time to move on to what, honestly, everybody's talking about this week. The Xfinity race. Justin Allgaier won his 15th career NASCAR Xfinity Series win. Martin Truex Jr. ran this race and pretty much dominated the race. And kind of the same story of the Cup race. He dominated but didn't win. He ended up having a pit road speeding penalty, and he dropped to the back. And I mean, he was able to rally back to second place, but he was not able to catch Justin Allgaier. And in those closing laps, he got close a couple of times, but just couldn't quite pull it off. And Harrison Burton also had a very good run. And Justin Allgaier ended up winning the race. First win of 2021, his first win in Atlanta. But, unfortunately, that's not what everybody's talking about. Everybody is talking about Noah Gragson and Daniel Hemrick. So, yes, everybody knows by now there was an altercation after the race between Noah Gragson and Daniel Hemrick. Hemrick came over and kind of pushed Gregson a little bit, grabbed him by the fire suit, and Noah Gragson threw a right hand and missed, and then Hemrick threw a right hand and actually connected, and I think then Gragson tried to throw another punch and missed, but it wasn't much of a fight. I mean, it was more of a, I would call it a scuffle, and I mean, it all ensued from what happened on pit road at one point, where I guess Hemrick was trying to get in his box, and he, I guess, overshot and drove through Gregson's box. And when Gregson came in a pit road, I mean, Hemrick's sitting in his box. And so Gregson basically pulls in, but his right rear tire is outside the box. And so he backs up and just backs right into Daniel Hemrick, who is getting his car serviced by his pit crew at the time. Their pit crew guys are running around, and Gregson just backs right into the 18 to then correct himself and pull into his box. Noah Gragson tweeted after the race, basically denying that he did this intentionally. And he ended up tweeting a video. It was basically an overhead cam of the pit box, and he said, "Here's the full video. Penalty if right sides are out of the box. Final pit stop. Judge for yourself." Now, I've watched this a couple of times now, and I mean, it's really hard to call this. I remember I watched this and I figured I'm going to come on the show and just tear Noah Gragson apart. Just like, that was absolutely ridiculous. There are people standing around. What were you thinking? And I kind of still do think that, but at the same time, it's very hard to tell by this video. Here's the thing. Let's say you're going down the street and you're going to pull into a parking space. Let's say you're going to parallel park, right? You're going to parallel park and you're on the parking spaces are on the side of the street. Okay? And you pull, say, too far into the spot to where you're like over the line and you're in the spot in front of you. And there's a car behind you. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to back out, back into the street, and correct yourself? Or are you just going to back up and just run over, hit the car behind you, and pull in? Now, maybe that's a bad analogy. I don't think it is, personally. But maybe some would argue it's a bad analogy. Here's the thing. Both scenarios are risky. I mean, number one, you're just going to back up and just hit the car behind you. Yeah, there's pit crew guys running around and everything like that. At the same time, if you just back out, completely out of the box and back onto pit road, I mean, you could get hit. You could get hit by another car coming in. So, it's a very risky situation, which is why, to me, I don't think NASCAR already announced they're not going to penalize Noah Gragson, and it that aspect of it is why I think you can't necessarily penalize him. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think happened. I'm not saying this is what happened, but I'm going to tell you what happened. What I think happened. Okay, I think Noah Gragson came into the pits, and he had to stop, and of course he had to pull up, and, he just backed up and didn't really... It's even hard to say whether or not he was like, "Oh, okay, you want to pull in my box? I'll show you, buddy." Or if he was like, "Man, I'm over the line here. All right, I need to back up. Well, if I hit Hemrick, sorry, I mean, you put me in the spot." Regardless, both scenarios to me are wrong. And it's hard to say. I believe what happened is Gragson got in a bad situation here, and trying to get out of it, I mean, he wasn't really gonna feel bad if he had to hit Hemrick trying to correct himself. If that makes any sense at all. My point is I don't think he saw him and thought, okay, I'll show you a lesson here. I think he got in this bad situation and thought, well, I got to get out of it. And you put me in this situation, so I'm not going to feel bad if I have to use you up to get out of this bad situation. So I think I made that clear enough on what I meant. But regardless, I mean, I think thinking about it again, I think there should at least be some sort of probation or something, or a fine at the very least. I don't think you need to suspend him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Denny Hamlin obviously tweeted, this is not okay, and I mean, it's absolutely not. I mean, if I were Gragson, if I were in Gregson's situation, like I said, listen, I'm not a race car driver, obviously. I'm watching this from my couch. But if I were in Noah Gregson's situation, I would have backed completely out of the stall and just pulled in again. But, I mean, who knows? It's hard to tell. So, there you go. That's the story. And obviously the fight was the big story. And Hemrick. Let me say something about Hemrick. Again, listen. I'm not a driver, whatever. But he comes over and he grabs Noah Gragson. Buddy. Like, what is with these drivers? They just grab each other. They don't throw punches immediately. They just grab each other's fire suits and kind of just like, tussle for a second. Like, throw punches. I don't know. I mean, granted, he did throw a punch after Gragson threw a punch, which I give him credit for that. But, I mean, why do these guys grab each other? I guess they just know, like, well, if I throw a punch, I'm going to get in trouble, so I'm going to wait for that other guy to throw a punch, and then I'm going to throw a punch. Maybe that's what it is. But, yeah. I wouldn't call it a fight. It was more of just a scuffle, but there you go. So, yeah, Justin Allgaier won, but obviously everybody was talking about this controversy. I still got this replay pulled up here, and I don't know. I mean, I would like to hear some radio chatter. I mean, obviously, if there's something over the radio, we can figure out maybe what Gregson's actual intentions were. But maybe I can look for that here later. But yeah, I just think Gragson got himself into a bad spot, and he, disregarded the guy who put him in that bad situation. That's what I think happened. And again, I'm absolutely not defending it, because here's the thing: the tire changer, the tire carrier, had they been running around to the other side of the car, I mean, he would have crushed the guy. It was a very, very dangerous situation. So, yeah. There you go. That's that situation. So, on Saturday, also, it was a doubleheader, the trucks and Xfinity, and Kyle Busch won the truck race. I didn't watch the truck race, so I'd be selling you guys short if I tried to review it. Oh, by the way, so also in that Xfinity race, Josh Berry went for a crazy ride. He spun out, and then coming off turn 4, and he hit the grass with the splitter. The splitter dug in and just destroyed the front of his race car. Just launched in the air. I mean, Larry McReynolds was arguing that, we don't need grass at racetracks and things like that. I mean, I've always liked grass at racetracks. I just like the visual of it on racetracks. But, I mean, I'm also not a driver, as I've mentioned multiple times already. So, to me, I think it should be a driver's choice. Do you want grass or not? And obviously, I think most drivers would say they probably don't want grass, so they don't tear their cars up. So, to me, I would tell NASCAR and the racetracks, listen to the drivers. Get rid of the grass. So the truck race was also on Saturday, and as mentioned, Kyle Busch won his 60th career Truck Series win, his 6th at Atlanta. Again, I didn't watch. I was busy and didn't get a chance to watch, but from what I understand, Kyle Busch pretty much put on a show, dominated, and that was that. I mean, it would be stupid to ever bet against Kyle when in the Truck Series. I mean, it happens sometimes. Obviously, Las Vegas, he didn't win, but he had some problems in that race that kept him from winning. But yeah, I mean, 60th career truck win, pretty crazy. And he's also got I believe, 98 wins in the Xfinity Series, 97 or 98. So he's very close to 100 in that series. And yeah, just continues to set records. Well, that is it, everybody. I am done. I will be back probably around Thursday or Friday, hopefully, to preview the dirt race at Bristol. It's going to be very exciting. We got trucks and cup there this weekend. And that is it. Everybody have a great day.